In contrast, Russian elections are rigged. Political opponents are imprisoned or otherwise eliminated from participating in the electoral process. The result is an absence of checks and balances in Russia and the decision of one man to launch a wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of of Ukraine. Iraq, too. Anyway, 75.
Wholly unjustified and brutal invasion of Iraq. Ukraine. 20 years later, George W. Bush has finally admitted he is a war criminal. There's Freudian slips, and then there's Freudian earthquakes. That was the latter. There's so many different directions to take this, but let's go back to 2008 when asked directly, do you have any regrets? No regrets. The world is a safer place without Saddam Hussein. Yeah, well, by that standard, I guess we need to invade a whole other list of countries to take out brutal dictators who make the world an unsafe place. Shall we start with Saudi Arabia and Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, who President Obama, President Trump, and current President Biden have been assisting in committing genocide on Yemen, also after he slaughtered a journalist and dismembered that journalist, Jamal Khashoggi? Should we start in the Philippines, where we were aiding brutal dictator Duterte? I could go down the list of other countries if you want. But we started a war. Bush started a war to make the world a safer place based on lies, weapons of mass destruction, chemical weapons, bioterror, mushroom clouds. And hundreds of thousands of people, possibly even millions, have died. And terrorism has become worse in the vacuum of the Iraq War. But to me, beyond Bush's war crimes and Cheney, is the toxic, disgusting, nauseating criminal rehabilitation program that has been waged, of course, by Republicans, by the Democratic Party, the media, and celebrities to basically make George W. Bush look, he's just that sunny, cuddly grandpa painting. Let's start with President Biden. In 2016, as vice president, presented George W. Bush with a Liberty Award. Take a look.
Mr. President, on a very serious note, it's my honor to present you both with the National Constitution Center 2016 Liberty Medal. You both deserve it. So I'm proud to be here tonight to honor President George W. Bush and the former First Lady, Laura Bush, who celebrate the values we share as Americans. It's no secret President Bush and I occasionally had our political disagreements. I remember one time in the Oval Office, Mr. President, you looking at me and saying, "Damn, Biden, you spent more time in this office than me than anybody else, including Republicans." But the fact of the matter is, I always respected the president. President Bush and Laura, we share a belief that those values which undergird our democracy are precious, and they exist way above party, and they have to be defended. That's the duty of patriots. That's the duty of patriots. So thank you both, President Bush and Mrs. Bush, for your ongoing commitment to honor and support the brave men and women who serve in the United States military.
Yeah, this is the man who deserves a Liberty Award. This is the man who deserves to be called a patriot after literally being responsible for an entire generation of death, suicides, wounded soldiers, disabled soldiers, families left without their husbands, wives, brothers, sisters, uncles, aunts, communities left without leaders, because this man is a patriot. This man just wanted liberty. And let's move on to former President Obama and his wife, who Obama chose, we don't want to look back. We're not going to prosecute George W. Bush or anyone in his administration. And his wife became BFFs with President Bush. Let's take a look.
In the middle of a presidential campaign filled with rancor, we were struck by a very different image over the weekend. First Lady Michelle Obama embracing former President George W. Bush at the opening of the National Museum of African American History and Culture. They do have a special bond, the Democratic Obamas and the Republican Bushes. We saw it at the memorial service for the fallen Dallas officers when Mr. Bush and Mrs. Obama held hands and swayed to the music.
Yeah, Obama, who ran on being right against the dumb war, who ran against ending dumb wars, even though he doubled down on Afghanistan. His wife, hugging, embracing a man responsible for a whole generation of murder. Because, hey, it's a big club and we're not in it, as George Carlin once said. Then we move on to the media. Keith Olbermann, who, full disclosure, when I first started paying attention to politics, was a hero of mine. I used to watch MSNBC in the Keith Olbermann days when he had scorching 15, 20-minute monologues, literally savaging this war criminal, George Bush, savaging this liar, Bush and Cheney and Rumsfeld, literally making sure people knew that there was a real-time, ongoing global war crime going on at the behest of the United States. But the 2010s version of Keith Olbermann, I apologize to George W. Bush.
In retrospect, based on what we've seen in the last 2 years in this country, I owe him an apology.
Oh.
I probably owe George W. Bush an apology.
Shut up.
And I would happily take a third term of George W. Bush rather than this. That's how serious I think it is. And I'll add this.
You just can't make this up. All because of Trump, who, of course, was himself a warmonger, between bombing Syria, between increasing troops in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Syria, between increasing troops and money to NATO, between vetoing a bipartisan resolution to end U.S. involvement in the Saudi-led genocide on Yemen, between assassinating Iranian General Commander Soleimani, which risked creating a war with Iran, arming Ukraine. We could go on and on and on about Trump. One thing he didn't do, literally launch a total brand new war based on lies. Yet Trump was the biggest threat. Trump was worse than Bush. Well, helped their ratings, didn't it? Then move on to the celebrities and that infamous selfie between Ellen and George W. Bush.
Yeah, fancy. So,
You dizzy or nauseous from that? And of course, we have to watch wonderful segments from NBC's Today, playing a little game with President Bush on his beautiful portraits.
What a beautiful day on the plaza. President George W. Bush, former First Lady Laura Bush, the former president's out with a new book. It's called Out of Many, One. Okay, so President Bush, first of all, thank you for being here. We have all of our great new citizens on the plaza, and you're going to play a game with us called Painttionary.
Yeah.
So you're going to draw something, and we're going to see if we can guess what it is.
Yeah, that's fine.
And the thing is,
I thought you were going to say thank you for making a fool out of yourself.
You all play at
National
home.
TV.
Play at home with us. This is the first time.
yeah, and the theme is
Americana.
Okay, so we're going to see if we can get it. Okay, 90 seconds on the clock. All right, let's see how many we can guess.
Okay.
Let's go.
Baseball.
Oh my gosh.
I told you he was a good artist.
Hold on for a minute. Don't stop the clock.
It's already
Okay.
going.
Wait.
I
Okay,
told-
here we go. There we go. He got it. Okay, ready? That is fireworks. Is that right?
Yes.
did y'all know?
No. But
I couldn't quite tell that. Fireworks.
okay. You want to help? Jen, why don't you help?
You want
Paul?
me to help you?
Yeah,
No,
I want
I
you to
don't.
help.
Nope, not the Onion, just the corporate warmonger media. Hey, they didn't die. They probably don't know anyone that died or is suicidal from Iraq or has one leg, what's it to them? I want to read the actual numbers here, which honestly, there will never truly be a way to truly know how many people have died from the Iraq war. But this, according to Cost of War from Brown University, no one knows with certainty how many people have been killed and wounded in Iraq since the 2003 United States invasion. However, we know that between 184,382 and 207,156 civilians have died from direct war-related violence caused by the U.S., its allies, the Iraqi military and police, and opposition forces from the time of the invasion through October 2019. The violent deaths of Iraqi civilians have occurred through aerial bombing, shelling, gunshots, suicide attacks, and fires started by bombing. Many civilians have also been injured. Because not all war-related deaths have been recorded accurately by the Iraqi government and the U.S.-led coalition, the numbers are likely much higher. Several estimates based on randomly selected household surveys placed the total death count among Iraqis in the hundreds of thousands. Several times as many Iraqi civilians may have died as an indirect result of the war due to damage to the system that provide food, healthcare, and clean drinking water, and as a result, illness, infectious disease, and malnutrition that could otherwise have been avoided or treated. The war has compounded the ill effects of decades of harmful U.S. policy actions towards Iraq since the 1960s, including economic sanctions in the 1990s that were devastating for Iraqis. Despite more than $100 billion committed to aiding and reconstructing Iraq, many parts of the country still suffer from lack of access to clean drinking water and housing. Key findings: between 184,382 and 207,156 Iraqi civilians killed by direct violence. The actual number of civilians killed by direct and indirect war violence is unknown, but likely much higher. Frankly, folks, could be closer to 1 million, if we're being honest. Not to mention U.S. soldiers, nearly 4,000, not to mention the suicides that took place since the Iraq War and Afghanistan, the wounded, missing legs and other body parts, the other victims, the families left behind. But he's 75. He doesn't know what he says. Shame on Bush, Cheney, and the entire media ecosystem that lied us into the war and has rehabilitated this man after. Because when you rehabilitate what is criminal, it breeds ground for it to happen again. This is why, by the way, I have continued to cover the Flint water cover-up for nearly 6 years. Because when you normalize the poisoning of a community and then covering up the poisoning of that community while leaving the residents to slowly die, it allows other leaders, whether mayors, governors, city councils, corporations, bought-off politicians, to say, hey, they got away with it in Flint. Let's go. Let's do it here, whether it's about water or anything else. Same principle for war. When no one is held criminally accountable for lying a country into a war, for sacrificing innocent soldiers, families, Iraqis, for creating ISIS through the vacuum of Iraq, what makes you think this could ever happen again? At least we now have on tape George W. Bush admitting the obvious. The W stands for war crime. Thanks for watching, and make sure to tune in to Status Coup's daily live stream Monday through Thursday at 5 o'clock Eastern Time and Fridays at 4 o'clock Eastern Time.